May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. So, friends, your reopening planning group has been hard at work this week. We've been preparing plans for Emmanuel's reopening. And Emmanuel, along with the Diocese of Rhode Island, is reopening in phases, all in accordance with the State of Rhode Island's phased reopening plan. The Diocese of Rhode Island is basically following the state's plan, and Emmanuel is, for the most part, following the diocese plan. But we're also taking into account the very particular needs and concerns of our community and what we need and what our location tells us. This is tough, holy, compassionate work. It's loving work. True, it's made up of a lot of detail and really epidemiological detail, square footage, data, viral retention statistics, disinfectant ratings. But even those mundane-sounding words are the holy elements of preparation for the hospitality that is the very foundation of our lives as Christians. The famous columnist, former political speechwriter and philologist William Safire spent his career exploring the origin of well-known sayings and turns of phrase. He pretty much hit the wall in one column in the New York Times Magazine in 1989 when he was researching the common phrase we all know, God is in the details. There's a phrase we also hear that the devil is in the details, but we think the original one, and so did Safire, was that God was in the details. And Safire asserted some kind of weak arguments for Friedrich Nietzsche, as well as some evidence that German Boho architect Ludwig Miles van der Rohe first said that. But ultimately he abandoned the verbal quest and just focused in on a close examination of the word details. And yet, we know this is true, right? God inhabits, surrounds, involves, unifies, and gives purpose to and from and through the details. And it has always been so for us. Hospitality, our basic foundation as Christians, is the holy work of details that it takes to prepare lovingly to gather in Jesus' name. Paying careful attention to the details is always what we do to prepare for worship. We have always carefully polished our chalices and our patens that hold our communion wafers, our cruets for our wine, our candlesticks. We have always starched and ironed our altar cloths and meticulously placed our frontals. You see, we've gone green today here because it's ordinary time. We choose our colors for the seasons in the church year that remind us of different times in Jesus' life, his passion, his resurrection. We have always prepared and proofread our service bulletins, getting ready to welcome our community, our neighbors, and the stranger. So all these new sciencey, epidemiological-sounding COVID protocols are just new ways of being in loving, caring Christian community, of preparing for our worship together. We're figuring out how we can start back with in-person worship in our liturgy. And liturgy is a great word for us to use in this context. Liturgy means simply a rite or body of rites used for public worship. The word liturgy comes to us from the Greek through the Latin, and it originally referred to a public service or duty, usually by a wealthy Athenian, on behalf of all of the people. Over the centuries, liturgy has almost always been referred to since then in our worship, like our liturgy, our service of the morning prayer, our service of Holy Eucharist, or Holy Matrimony, or baptism. In our worship services, all of us Clergy, altar guild, lectors, intercessors, ushers, choir, all of us have a role or a part in this duty or office. And as we understand and use the word liturgy now, it's come to mean the work of the people in our worship, the way we express, reinforce, and continually recommit ourselves to our lives following Jesus. There are 2 points here. First, no detail is too small, too mundane, too simple, or too ordinary to be important and holy in the preparation of our liturgy. And second, we all have a part. For our whole lives in the church, we have washed, polished, ironed, starched, cooked, cleaned, and waxed. We've ordered candles, communion wafers, poinsettias, palms, Easter lilies, and coffee, it seems, by the ton. We've ordered wine. We've always made sure we had enough for all of us. And now we're using that same compassion as we prepare to meet in person again. I know it could be easy to get distracted by some of the practices we need to follow to keep each other safe. And it even could seem like, face masks and hand sanitizer don't really help with our worship. In fact, it might even seem that they don't have anything to do with our worship, or they even interfere. It seems maybe like they're extraneous, unrelated, secular details, kind of unholy and worldly. But when I think of these things that we've always done our whole lives in the church, the face masks, symptom checks, and hand sanitizer, those procedures seem like they're just part of our liturgy, the work of all of us in public worship. When you think of it that way, the mundane details aren't really any different from the details, the ordinary details of washing, polishing, ironing, starching, and waxing that we always undertake when we prepare to be both hosts and guests as we welcome Jesus among us. We're balancing hospitality with each other's health risk, carefully and respectfully, calibrating our plans with overflowing measures of love and compassion. Our gospel today points us to the work of the people. Jesus and the 12 apostles are headed out on a mission, preaching and teaching all over the Galilee. Jesus summons the apostles, gives them the power to heal the sick and to cast out unclean spirits, and then he sends them out all together to do their work. Jesus' instructions are really interesting. He told them to take nothing with them but the sandals on their feet and just what they're wearing that day. No food, no money, no extra clothes, and this is big, no bag, not even a bag to carry things in. These are remarkably specific and clear instructions. And then the last one is a zinger. Jesus tells the apostles that when they enter a house, they should stay there until they leave. That's fascinating, right? Let's unpack that one a little. Next, Jesus and the apostles go out into the villages of Galilee. Remember, they took no food, no money, no extra clothes, no bag to carry things in. What they did have, though, was this clear instruction: stay until you leave. Jesus told the apostles to arrive empty-handed and stay until you leave. Was Jesus leaving space for liturgy, for the work of the people? If the apostles arrive empty-handed and are present with their full attention until it's time to go, there's a role left for the people they visit. Everyone gets involved. If the apostles don't come full of their own ideas with an answer for everything, holding on with their own bag full of money, their own foods, their own culture, their own way of doing things back home, and with somewhere else they have to be, they leave space. If they arrive empty-handed without even a bag to carry their own things, they leave room for good things to happen, for the liturgy, for the work of the people they will do together, and for relationship and for faith to grow. By coming empty-handed and staying put in community, there's work for everyone to do together. There's space for community, there's space for mutuality and space for relationship and for respect to grow and flourish. And there's space for God. As we prepare to reopen for in-person worship in these next weeks and months, our reentry will be phased. We'll start where it's safest, outside, where the air moves around. We'll also continue live casting on Facebook so we can include anyone who's joined in these last months. For or people who still are living or staying in other places, or anyone at all who simply feels safer at home for the time being. All of us have a role and a place in our lives in Emmanuel. Whether we're polishing our communion silver and starching and ironing our altar linens, or gathering face masks, putting out hand sanitizer, and planning check-in procedures, we are doing the work we always do when we prepare to be both hosts and guests and welcome each other and Jesus among us. We're doing the work of God.